What is the creepiest thing that has ever happened to you? He was there looking at me without saying a word from the shadows. I was around 7 years old, playing in my backyard during a summer evening. Our backyard backed onto a small wooded area, nothing too dense, just a thin line of trees separating our yard from the next street over. I remember hearing a twig snap and turning to see a man standing at the edge of the woods. He was just standing there, staring at me. I couldn't make out his features clearly because of the shadows, but I could tell he was tall and thin. I froze, completely paralyzed with fear. After what felt like an eternity, he slowly turned and walked back into the woods. I ran inside screaming and never saw him again, but the image of him standing there, silently watching me, has stayed with me ever since. The old house at the end of the street always felt wrong. My friend and I decided to explore an abandoned house at the edge of town when we were teenagers. We knew it had been empty for years, and there were always rumors about it being haunted. We crept inside, our hearts pounding, and started exploring. Everything was covered in dust and decay, but there was one room that stood out. It was a small bedroom, and in the center of the room was a child's rocking horse. It was old and worn, but it was rocking back and forth ever so slightly. There were no windows open, and no breeze. We both stared at it, frozen in fear, before turning and running out of the house as fast as we could. The mirror reflected something that shouldn't have been there that night. I woke up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. I sleepily stumbled to the bathroom, flipped on the light, and looked in the mirror. For a brief second, I saw someone standing behind me in the reflection. It wasn't my reflection, it was someone else, a dark figure with a distorted face. I whipped around, but there was no one there. I convinced myself it was just a trick of the light or a hallucination, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something else was in the room with me. The phone call that changed everything and still echoes in my mind. I received a phone call one night from an unknown number. When I answered, there was only static at first, then a faint voice started whispering my name. It sounded like someone I knew, but I couldn't quite place it. I asked who it was, but the voice just kept repeating my name, growing louder and more frantic with each repetition. I hung up, terrified, and blocked the number, but I still get chills whenever I think about that call. The woods seemed to be whispering secrets to me one spooky autumn day. I was hiking alone in the woods one afternoon when I started to feel like I was being watched. The woods were silent, except for the crunch of leaves under my feet, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was nearby. I started walking faster, trying to ignore the feeling, but then I heard a voice. It was faint, but it sounded like someone whispering my name from somewhere deep in the woods. I froze, my heart pounding, and listened intently, but I didn't hear anything else. I turned around and ran out of the woods as fast as I could, never looking back. The painting in the antique shop that seemed to follow me. I was browsing an antique shop when I came across a painting that gave me an unsettling feeling. It was a portrait of a young woman, and her eyes seemed to follow me as I moved around the room. I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was watching me. I eventually left the shop, but I kept thinking about the painting. A few days later, I was walking down the street when I saw the same painting in the window of another antique shop. I stopped and stared at it, feeling a chill run down my spine. How could it have gotten there so quickly? I never went into that shop.